So there's been another announcement regarding Avalanche. Let me explain what that is. And actually, in this case, it's regarding Grayscale. But before I get into that, I first want to explain nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just purely on my perspective. Now, Grayscale recently made a post, and I quote them, right? They say tokenization is poised to transform capital markets. Now, what do they mean by that? Below that, what they said was Grayscale Research believes that Ethereum, Solana, Canton, BNB, AVAX, and as well as Link, which is Chainlink's native token, and of course AVAX being Avalanche's native token. But besides that, they say how all of that right there are well positioned to benefit from more than 300 plus trillion in assets moving on chain. And of course, they're talking about in terms of the dollar amount. Now, the thing is, what I find even more fascinating about that is that under core underlying blockchain infrastructure, they have this like diagram or whatever. And then below that, there's subcategories, right? But under the subcategory of hybrid architecture, guess who's the only one there? It's Avalanche. I find that very surprising. The reason why is because we have to think about that. Just how many layer 1 blockchains are out there? I mean, there's too many. I can't even keep track. But seeing how Avalanche was the only one there, basically, I think that's pretty impressive. Again, under hybrid architecture. So yeah, I do find that to be pretty impressive. Now, under open architecture, they do talk about let's say a layer 1 blockchain like Ethereum, like Solana, for instance, but under, again, hybrid architecture, Avalanche was the only one. I find that very impressive. People like to say, well, it doesn't mean anything. Avalanche isn't that good and all that. But we have to think about it. Grayscale is really massive. You think when they do research, they just do it for fun or they just do it for kind of jokes like that and they don't really put any effort? Usually they put a lot of effort, in my opinion. I mean, Grayscale is really massive. Just take a look at the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. That's so massive, right? So when I take a look at something in the case of Avalanche, even them caring about, I guess, Avalanche in that way, I found that to be pretty surprising. Now, am I really so surprised though? Not necessarily, because we do know that there is Avalanche ETF when it comes to Grayscale. Like there is Grayscale's Avalanche ETF, which is on NASDAQ. So it's one out of the three in the US in terms of Avalanche spot ETFs that we've seen so far. So we already see that. So I guess, maybe that's why Grayscale cares a lot about Avalanche. But for them to even care about it in the first place, we have to think about that. They probably did their due diligence. They probably did research. They probably had a team looking over this, right? It's not just one person, making decisions randomly like that. Typically, that's not the case for something that massive, or especially for entities that are really massive, right? So again, people like to say, but who cares about Avalanche as a layer 1 blockchain? There are so many. Why even care about this? But in my opinion, it's not like Avalanche is the greatest of all time. I don't think about it that way, but it doesn't need to. I think sometimes people do like options. And the thing is this, it's like, for instance, do I think that a BMW is the best vehicle of all time? Now, arguably, I would say no, personally, in my perspective and in my opinion, but it doesn't mean that others won't like it, right? Like a lot of people out there do like that. People usually have their own preferences. People sometimes usually like their own kind of, I guess, brand. Sometimes they feel a connection with that. It's just a little bit different. So yes, in theory, Grayscale could have believed in many other layer 1 blockchains, and they do believe in some other layer 1 blockchains, but I'm just saying, instead of Avalanche, they could have easily believed in another one. But I'm saying, again, the fact that they even care about it that much, I think may showcase something. Now, when it comes to Avalanche, people like to say, well, its only kind of advantages are its speed, its sort of scalability, and then also the low gas fees. They like to say, but we see that with a bunch of layer 1 blockchains out there. That's true, but I think if we consider just Avalanche's established nature, if we consider how long it's been around, if we consider the total value locked, that's on Avalanche. If we consider all of that, I think the whole ensemble basically, maybe that's what Grayscale considered. It's like, for instance, is Toyota the coolest car brand out there of all time? I would arguably say no, but I like it. It's my favorite car brand actually when it comes to Toyota. So, yeah, again, sometimes people just have their own preferences. And when I take a look at Avalanche, sure, that sort of, I guess, aspect of speed, scalability, and low gas fees, we see that with a lot of other competitors out there. But at the same time, we have to kind of consider the intangibles, right? Just how Avalanche is being run, just how long it's been around, kind of the track record that it has. Sometimes, I think those features right there are what some large entities out there do care about. It's like, for instance, I don't think a Toyota is the coolest out there, but I find it very reliable. That's kind of a intangible, sort of, right? That is beyond just cool factor. I think about, the reliability, kind of the historical sort of presence that it has. When it comes to AVAX, we do know that when it comes to allegedly 100% of the transaction fees on Avalanche, they're burned, right? And when it comes to that, why is that a good thing? In theory, that sort of creates a deflationary pressure. Other projects out there, they don't care about this type of stuff. And the thing is, AVAX, it's not like the maximum supply is infinity, right? A lot of other projects out there, the maximum supply is infinity, but they don't do that. So if I take a look at that right there, when it comes to Avalanche, even though it already has a maximum supply when it comes to AVAX, but still, they have that feature where allegedly 100% of transaction fees on Avalanche are burned. Again, if there's, in theory, less of something, doesn't it make it more rare? Granted, though, when it comes to Avalanche, people like to say, but with all of those ETFs, in terms of spot ETFs in the US, they like to say, but Avalanche? Come on, they say AVAX, it's below $10. Yeah, it is. It's around $9. But seeing all of that right there, and yet AVAX is $9, I mean, come on. Like, sure, I could ignore it, but I just don't want to, especially at a time like this. I think Avalanche, as of right now, is arguably fundamentally better when compared to where it once was last year and also the year before that. And also, I think it's way better than 2021. I really do believe that. I mean, take a look at the ETFs when it comes to Avalanche right now, right? I'm talking about VanEck's Avalanche ETF, Grayscale's Avalanche ETF, Bitwise's Avalanche ETF. So again, I didn't see that back in 2021, at least that trifecta, those 3 Avalanche spot ETFs in the US. I didn't see that. When it comes to AVAX being below $10, being around $9, it only just means that it's actually, over 3 times lower than where it was back in September 2025. So when I take a look at that, do I think that September last year was a altcoin season? Do I think it was such a good time for altcoins? No, I don't think so. I think far from it, actually. But still, we're over 3 times lower than a point in which originally was considered bearish when it comes to AVAX. So if we could just go back to that, yeah, I don't know why I would be angry or upset, because I wouldn't actually if it just returned back to that. Bitcoin isn't over 3 times lower than its all-time high. But the thing is, like, $35 is not the all-time high when it comes to AVAX. We're taking a look at AVAX, for instance, having an all-time high of around $146. We're so low as of right now when compared to around $35, yet $35 is nowhere close to its all-time high. But I think that, if anything, kind of showcases just how much it's had a pullback, which I don't mind, though, because I'm in here for the long term anyways, and if I'm dollar cost averaging at below $10, I don't know why I'd complain. Now, do I know when the market is going to pick up again? No, I can't do any sort of guessing when it comes to that. There's no way. What am I going to do? Pull up a price chart, draw some random triangles, and try to find out what happens next? When it comes to the price charts, there's no way I could do that. In terms of the exact timing, there's no way I could do that. The only thing I can do is wait. But I don't have to, but I voluntarily want to wait. But again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward when it comes to Avalanche. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. I'm out. Peace. Bye.